Hi guys, welcome to the video. It's either episode 2 or episode 3, depending on whether you have watched the introduction to this or not. So if you did watch the introduction, welcome to episode 3 of this full walkthrough, full playthrough, whatever you want to call it. Today we're just going to be carrying on with what I'm going to be calling chapter 2. Obviously the last episode was chapter 1 of Sam's route. This is chapter 2. Let's get right into it. At the same time, a ping of realization hit the back of my mind. The boys were only going to stay until after Malix was defeated. That was our deal. As we approached home, I could feel something heavy weigh down on my heart. It was late, but the boys led me inside and turned on the lights in the lobby.
Finally, we can relax!
It will be good to have some rest without devils breathing down our necks.
I'm just tired. Can I hit the hay early?
I think some sleep would be good for all of us.
I looked to Damien, knowing he could read my mind, and frowned. I didn't want him to know about my thoughts on the situation. Yeah, bed sounds good. I wanted to just end tonight. Too much had happened and I felt dizzy just trying to figure it out. However, Damien spoke up, stopping all of us from moving.
Should we be gone in the morning?
The air became still with tension. The realization of the situation hit the boys like a wave, forcing them to turn to me in curiosity. They had remembered their deal and were now awaiting me to decide their fate. I gulped, face to face with the reality of the situation. The boys were leaving it up to me. They looked like they were willing to accept whatever I had demanded. It was only fair, though, after all that had happened. I looked to Sam, feeling my heart flutter in my chest. I didn't want him to leave, but would he ask to stay? I hoped that he would say no and ask me to stay longer. As if he knew what I wanted, Sam moved and stepped to me, putting his hands in his pockets and looking down at the ground. He was still ashamed of what he'd done, but he spoke to me regardless.
Hey, I kinda... I wanted to thank you for your energy and stuff. Well, I kinda want to stay here. Can we stay here? Please?
My heart skipped while a large red blush ran across my cheeks. The boys stared at Sam wide-eyed, but didn't dare to speak out. Sam stepped back to give me space, returning to where he was. I moved my gaze across each boy, trying to make a decision. If they left in the morning, I would never see them again, and my life could return to normal. If I did decide to let them go, that would have been for the best. No goodbyes, no delays. But did I want to? They'd done so much for me in such a small amount of time. Of course I'm gonna let them stay! I wanted them to stay. I wanted him to stay. I merely smiled, staring at the man I'd come to have feelings for, before speaking at last. I would love it if you could all stay. The boys cheered tiredly, but nonetheless enthusiastically. I giggled at the sight. It was cute to see everyone so excited, despite the tiredness that equally ran through their bodies. Today was a rough day. My home is your home, as long as you can still help with chores. The boys nodded in unison, agreeing to the terms I'd set for them. Despite the good situation, I felt myself slowly slipping into unconsciousness. However, James quickly clapped his hands together, getting everyone's attention and waking me up, making sure I didn't pass out on the floor.
All right, everyone. We're all very tired, so let's head to bed, shall we?
Oh! Yeah, sleep is actually a thing. Right.
We've had a very long day, but it will be good to just relax tonight and tomorrow.
Sleep sounds really good right now.
Yeah, man.
I watched a happy smile grow onto Sam's lips. He shared my excitement, knowing that we would be together longer. Who knew how long we would stay together? All I cared about was that I would be with him. The others quickly left to finally rest, leaving me and Sam alone at last. My heart fluttered a bit as Sam walked closer to me, looking to his feet. He was nervous, but it was really cute to see him that way. So I didn't do anything but smile.
Hey, thanks for letting us stay.
You're welcome, Sam. I'm happy to have you stay here. I watched his smile brighten a bit before he cleared his throat and looked up at me with a serious face. I didn't know if it was the tiredness or my growing attachment to him, but I felt myself sway a bit on my feet. However, Sam's face made it clear that he wanted to say something else, making me forget that my bed was also calling for me.
Listen, about what happened at the warehouse.
No, it's fine. You did what you had to do. I understand. I'd accepted everything that happened and knew that Sam had to do what he had to do. He was real and he was someone I didn't want to be without, even if that meant nodding against my curiosity. Besides, I was too tired to explore that memory further. Sam nodded before holding out a hand to me.
Come on, let's get you to bed.
I nodded before Sam gently lifted me up into his arms like a bride and carried me to my room. I didn't want to leave his arms, leaning my head against Sam's chest, but eventually I was slowly lowered to my bed and covered with my bed covers. I was still in my school clothes, but I was too tired to strip or care. I looked to Sam, fighting a yawn from escaping me as he gently ran a hand over my hair.
Get some sleep, alright? I'll make some breakfast again for you in the morning.
I nodded with a tired smile before watching him slowly stand and leave my room, closing the door. A wave of happiness washed over me as I laid in bed. I made a good choice. Sure, it would be hard, but I could tell that I would be able to manage it. Help around the house and being with a man whom I was slowly starting to fall for would be worth it. I slowly felt my exhaustion take over. I let sleep consume me as I drifted into the darkness of my mind. Everything was peaceful. I was happy.
You are an interesting creature.
I opened my eyes to see a woman staring down at me with a very sly smirk on her face. I opened my mouth to scream in fright, but a hand quickly covered my mouth.
No screaming now. Too early, silly girl.
I could only stare up at the woman above me. I still felt weak, not having the strength to move and fight her off. What was going on? And why was she here?
Why do the boys like you? You're unique, yes, but that can't be all that you have going for you.
Rage began to consume my core again. This woman, whoever she was making me mad. She must have known as she let another smirk grow on her face.
Ooh, you're feisty. That could be why.
Before I could bite her hand in anger, she removed her hand from my lips, standing up and staring down at me from her place next to my bed. I quickly sat up and glared daggers at the intruder. She was very beautiful, but I felt more anger than amazement. Who the hell are you? And why are you in my room? The woman began to laugh, making the rage inside me increase. I wanted to punch her, but I waited for her answer.
How silly of me. I forgot that we demons are not well known of in your world. You can call me Diana, little human.
Diana? Demon? You're a demon?
I am, but I'm much more than just an average demon.
What do you mean?
Silly girl. I'm a succubus.
I stared at Diana in shock. A succubus? First incubi, now a succubus? Great. I had now met both genders of sex demons. Diana crossed her arms under her bosom and looked at my body.
Well, you are pretty. But you seem very reckless. Too reckless.
I moved out and stood from the bed, still glaring at Diana. Why are you here?
Oh, I just wanted to see who my competition was.
Competition?
For the boys, of course. They don't belong here, and yet here they remain. I want to know why, and remedy this little issue.
This girl was seriously pissing me off. Issue? What issue? They want to stay here so they can.
Silly, uneducated human. You don't understand the important roles these boys play in the abyssal planes. You keeping them here is practically imprisonment.
You have about 10 seconds to leave.
Is that a threat? How cute. What are you going to do? Kill me?
And if I do?
You barely have the strength to stand, little human. I can rip the rest of your energy out and knock you into a coma. You'll never be able to wake up again.
Touch me and I'll...
Enjoy every minute of it.
I felt my body freeze and heat up to almost a painful haze. My mind began to feel fuzzy as Diana stepped to me and caressed my cheek.
Now, you're going to listen to everything I say without any questions. Got it?
I nodded.
Good. I plan to bring the boys back to the abyssal planes. Why? So that I can take my place as queen of their realm. They have no reason to be here in this silly little world, so I'm going to make sure they return home. Okay, Pumpkin?
I nodded but growled. My rage couldn't be concealed despite the hold I was under. You evil bitch.
Call me evil all you want, dearie. I'm not evil. You're just in my way.
I felt Diana lean into my ear and whisper, making me unconsciously shiver in both pleasure and annoyance.
Now, be a good little human and go to bed. I'll make sure they're gone before you get home tomorrow from school, so make sure to say goodbye in the morning.
I felt my body move on its own to lay in bed and cover itself with bedsheets. I glared at Diana the entire way down. Diana laughed at my futility. I'll get you.
Oh, please do.
All of a sudden, her voice deepened and became cold and demonic, sending a violent, scared shiver down my spine. Her red eyes practically illuminated in the darkness of my room as she glared at me.
Give me a reason to make your life a living hell.
I gritted my teeth, trying to fight back against the hold on me. She couldn't have been that tough. She needed energy to survive, right? I was sure she couldn't have had enough to hold me down forever. Diana then laughed and returned to normal.
Oh, and make sure you don't tell the boys I was here. I want my visit to be a surprise.
I felt the hold on me disappear, allowing me to sit up and practically growl at Diana in rage. What's stopping me?
Then you must not care about your friends and family as much as you care for the boys.
I stopped and stared. What did she mean by that? Was that a threat to my family? Diana smirked at me, knowing the confusion behind my eyes.
Let's just say that if you tell the boys about me, I'll make sure that no one will care for you, and you'll be all alone in this little house until the day you die.
I could feel fear creeping into me. Alone? How could she do that? The word demon reverberated in my head, reminding me that I was facing off against something supernatural. A human with a shield versus a devil was one thing. A human on her own versus a demon was another.
Have a good night.
And with that, Diana sank into the floor through a magic purple pentagram, which disappeared as her head vanished into the floor. I couldn't believe it. I had one problem and now I had another. Instead of a crazy psycho devil who wanted to kill me and the boys, I had a succubus wanting to ruin my life and take the boys away. Could my life get any worse? No, I wasn't gonna let her win. She's not as powerful as she looks. I know it. I had to mentally confirm it. She wasn't going to win. The boys wanted to stay with me. I let out a sigh before closing my eyes, affirming my plan of action. No matter what she was going to do, I was going to beat her. Eventually the morning arrived and the sun screamed at me to get up. Surprisingly, I woke up before my alarm clock once again, which was nice. I stretched out and quickly got dressed, getting ready for school. She expects me to say goodbye to the boys. I will say good morning, and we'll see them when I come back. No way am I going to say goodbye. I scooped up my bag and headed downstairs to the dining room, seeing the boys already eating a delicious selection of food. The smell made my stomach growl wildly as the sight of food drew me to walk further into the room.
Good morning, miss. Did you sleep well?
Before I could lie, hiding the incident in the back of my mind, Damien furrowed his eyebrows and stopped eating.
She's here.
The boys looked to Damien in confusion while I cursed his ability silently in my mouth.
Damien, what's up with you? Of course she's here. She kinda owns the house.
Damien looked to me, wanting me to explain for him. However, the threats that Diana gave me last night warned me to keep my mouth shut. I'm going to avoid it. I shook my head at Damien, not wanting to talk about it. Damien sighed and looked to James. James tilted his head and furrowed his eyebrows at Damien before looking to me.
Does anyone else live in this house?
No, just us.
Then who is Diana?
My heart stopped. Damien was still able to read my mind. I couldn't help but glare at him, but he continued to press a hard tell-the-truth gaze at me. I sighed. Damien was going to press the issue, so I had no choice but to speak. A girl named Diana came by last night.
Diana? Is she important?
Did she try to hurt you?
She's, succubus. The single word made the boys stop and stare at me. I looked to each boy, unsure of what was going through their minds. Should I have avoided it?
So, she's come to try and bring us back.
She must really be desperate.
Well, what should we do now?
Nothing. She'll give up eventually.
Will she?
The boys continued to look at me as if I knew the answer to that question. Damn it, Damien. She said that if I told you, she'd make my life a living hell. She can't possibly do that, right? She's not a devil.
No, she isn't. However, she is a very powerful demon.
She's a master of mind manipulation and has been trained in illusion. Unlike other demons who use strength to get power, she uses her charisma.
She has the power to make armies bow to her and obey her every whim. That's why she's so obsessed with us.
What? What do you mean?
Well, she sorta has family ties to us. She was promised to marry one of us in exchange for more power.
She's just some whacked up hussy who doesn't know how to close her legs. She's not a real threat.
Oh, really? I feel insulted.
The boys and I looked around the room, wondering where the voice came from. I felt a cold sweat run down the back of my neck in fear, remembering what kind of power she had. At last, we saw Diana by the entrance of the kitchen, juggling a single red apple in her hand as she leaned against the archway. The boys quickly surrounded me, glaring at the intruder.
So, you took up a human name as well.
Beautiful name, isn't it? Well, for a human name anyway.
What the hell do you want?
To bring you back, of course. However, you weren't supposed to know that I was coming. I completely forgot about that little mind-reading ability. My mistake.
Diana pushed off from the archway and walked towards us, making the boys step closer to me in a protective circle. Diana laughed.
My. What has the world come to? A group of demons protecting a human girl? I'll tell you right now, she's not that pretty. And from what I can tell, she's still a virgin.
My face grew red in complete anger and embarrassment. How dare she? Oh, hell no! I stepped up, gently pushing the boys away to be face to face with Diana. I was furious, and she was about to feel my wrath. You're in my house. You're an intruder. You have no power here.
Oh, really? Do I have to remind you of the power I have, dear?
With a snap of her fingers, my mind suddenly locked up and I felt blank. I could see the world around me, but I lost control of my body. The boys quickly reformed around me, with James gripping onto Diana's wrist in anger.
You will leave this instant.
Or what? You'll kill me? I completely dare you to.
Let me do it. I could use the workout.
Don't.
The boys looked to Damien while Diana smirked at my blank state. I wanted to fight this hold, but her power held me down.
And why not?
She wants us to kill her. If she dies, then civil war starts in the demon world.
Very good, sweetie.
What happens in the demon world doesn't concern us anymore. We live here now.
The demons will come to the human world and hunt us down before attacking each other.
The demons will come to the human world? All because of her?
You sneaky bitch.
With another snap of Diana's fingers, I was released from her hold, almost buckling to my knees.
Well, will you all change your minds? I assure you, it's for the greater good.
I expected the boys to say no. What I heard was complete silence. None of the boys replied to Diana, which made me both nervous and fearful as to why. Diana leaned her head back a bit, surprised for a different reason.
No. Well, I see.
Was silence truly them saying no to her? I looked around at the boys and saw the disobedience in their eyes, giving me my answer. I felt my heart flutter, especially when my eyes landed on Sam. He kept close to me, glaring daggers into Diana. I could feel that he was completely adamant in his choice to stay. I didn't know what, but I was incredibly happy to know he wanted to stay. Diana sighed and pressed a finger into her temple, rubbing it gently.
Either all of you are playing a very convincing hard-to-get game, or you all must be out of your minds.
Diana then looked to me, locking her gaze with mine as if to read me. I could tell she wanted me to do something, but the boys would stop her. So the stare was her only available action. After a small moment of silence, Diana licked her lips before breaking the gaze battle and smiling to the boys around me.
Very well. I guess I'll take my leave now.
What? Her leave? Was she serious? The boys around me straightened up and grew confused looks on their faces as Diana stepped back and away from us with a small bow, flaunting her cleavage. Without another word, a deep purple pentagram appeared under her feet, and Diana's body slowly sank into the floor. As her head vanished into the floor, the pentagram vanished. At once, the boys relaxed and slowly began to return to their spots at the table, each deep in thought.
She'll be back, but she won't kill us. She needs us alive.
Whatever. We'll just keep saying no. She can't force us to come back.
She can't do anything but annoy us. Eventually she'll give up.
That's the hope anyway.
Hopefully. Sam walked over to me and placed a hand on my shoulder, looking at me with concern.
If she comes after you, you need to tell us, okay?
I nodded, knowing that he wanted to protect me. Sam gently took his hand from my shoulder and very gently moved a strand of my hair from my face, however, making me blush and forget what I was thinking about. The sound of collective chuckles and playful snickers whispered through the air, making me blush even more. As Sam grunted in reply, the laughter stopped. I looked up to see he was glaring at his brothers, a fist forming in his hand, ready to swing at one of them. He and I pulled away from each other just as the sound of Naomi's car appeared. I quickly ate my food, waved to the boys, and left, confident that nothing was going to happen. Never, ever say that nothing will happen before the day is over. I avoided talking about the ride back home yesterday, saying that the ride was a one-time thing. I'll be riding with you guys from now on, to and from school. The girls seemed very happy. We entered the school, quickly gathered our things from our lockers, and headed to class. There were no events to our surprise. History wasn't exactly fun, but our teacher was great. At least, he would have been great if he was in class that day. Naomi and Suzu took their seats around me, Suzu in front of me, Naomi beside me, before the class bell rang and the class was greeted by the dean.
Students, you'll be having a substitute for class today. Everyone meet
Miss Diana.
My heart stopped. At the door with the dean was Diana, looking over the students and smirking as her eyes landed on me. She strutted to the teacher's desk, ignoring, or welcoming, the whispers from the other students, before sitting on the wood and crossing her legs.
Thank you, Dean. You can go now.
With a wave of Diana's hand, the dean left the classroom, closed the door, and left the area. Diana smiled at us, making my stomach turn. What was she going to do?
So, history. History. Such a silly thing, isn't it? I mean, what do we care about the past? We're in the present.
The rest of the class, including Naomi and Suzu, hesitantly nodded in agreement, unsure about this new teacher, but willing to listen to more of what she had to say.
The present is so full of wonderful things. While the labors of the past are the reason we have many things, it is our chance and privilege to utilize what has been given to us.
Her charm was almost infectious. The class was practically starting to eat out of her hand. I looked around to see classmates grinning and agreeing with Diana. I pressed my lips together as I listened further. I had no choice.
What's even funnier about human beings is that some of the bits of history we hear as either made up or completely biased to one side. It's like a story you read as a child. You hear of the princess and the prince, and they live happily ever after. But what about the family she left behind? What of her friends?
The students listened and agreed intently to her words. I could tell, however, that these words were all targeted at me.
The original story of The Little Mermaid, a perfect example of biased opinion. Here we have a girl who thinks she can be with this prince, but this prince has to marry a princess. What would happen if the mermaid had her way? What makes the mermaid so important that the princess has to suffer the consequences?
It doesn't matter what happens to the princess. The rest of the class turned their heads to me. Naomi and Suzu looked at me with equally surprised looks. I kept my eyes to Diana. If I was the mermaid, I wasn't going to let the princess take my prince away. Diana stared at me before smiling and turning her body to fully face me.
Oh? And why does it not matter?
The story isn't about the princess. The story is about the mermaid and the prince.
But that is exactly my point. While the story talks about the mermaid and the prince's romance, we don't see the problems of the kingdom the prince rules. While we are all fixated with this love story, we ignore the fact the kingdom would fall apart without the marriage between the prince and princess.
She kept her eyes to me as she spoke. I knew she wanted to make her words stick in my mind, but I didn't listen. It was one thing to be a fictional story. It was another to try and ruin someone's life for selfishness. Diana chuckled and looked back to the class.
Well, luckily in the real story of The Little Mermaid, the mermaid knows that what she was doing was wrong, and she threw herself into the ocean, turning into sea foam.
Some of the students that surrounded me mumbled in surprise, obviously not knowing the real story. However, Diana was wrong once again. That's not true. Once again, the class looked to me, and Diana faced me with another smile.
Not true. How so?
The trade-off for becoming human was marrying the prince or turning into sea foam. However, she was also given the choice to kill the prince and turn back into a mermaid. The mermaid didn't because she loved him and sacrificed herself for that love. That is the story worth telling. Not some princess getting her way, but of a tragedy that had befallen a girl who only wanted love. The class applauded me with Suzu giving me her usual punch to my shoulder, and Naomi smiling at my logic. Diana, however, finally grew an almost angered face at me.
Interesting. So what you are saying is that the princess should be given no mind.
The story is not about the princess. The story is about the mermaid, and the mermaid should have gotten her prince.
Even at the risk of a kingdom falling apart?
Even if the entire world fell apart around them, duty does not overrule love, and the princess needs to realize this. The applause that followed that intensified with whoops and hollers. I felt a wave of confidence roll through my body. Diana wasn't going to win. I wasn't going to let her. Diana then stopped talking and looked at the clock on the wall, reading it quickly. This class had barely begun. Why was she looking at the time? Diana then leaned against the blackboard and smiled to us. I became worried.
You know what? School isn't important. Everyone, go ahead and head home. Take the week off.
The students suddenly began to chat happily or in confusion of the situation. Many thought it was a dream come true. Others knew better. Before anyone could protest, however, Diana pressed a finger to her lips and counted down with her finger in the air. 3, 2, 1. The speakers of the classroom gently woke, giving us an announcement we would never believe.
Attention students! Due to an emergency faculty meeting, we will be closing school for the remainder of the day and this entire week. Please leave the school quickly and quietly and have a good rest of the week.
She used her powers on them. Damn it. I felt the need to stop her, but how could I stop a demon in the middle of a public area? Diana smiled before gesturing to the door.
Have a nice week off. School will resume next week.
Many of the students filed out, chatting to each other about new impromptu plans. Suzu was beyond happy, but Naomi was hesitant. Before we could pack up and leave, however, Diana stepped to us.
Excuse me, little miss. I'd like you to stay a little while. There's something we need to discuss.
As Diana looked to Suzu and Naomi, she snapped her fingers, making my friends tense up.
You two can head home. Don't worry about your friend until next week, okay? If you contact her, she won't reply, so don't bother. If she contacts you, ignore her, because she's just fine.
As if on command, Suzu and Naomi left the room. I tried to march on after them, but Diana stepped in my path, warning me with her eyes that if I followed, there would be hell to pay. I'd lost my two friends, at least for the week. Diana and I were alone, just like she wanted. I slammed my hands on the desk in front of me and glared at Diana. What are you doing? And what are you thinking?
What? Do I not make a good teacher? I figured you should have a little lesson, so I took matters into my own hands.
Whatever you're trying to do won't work.
You really think so, dear? And what makes you so sure about that?
What was making me so sure? Why was I confident? Were the boys worth this? My thoughts began to fill with doubt. All of the uncertainties about this whole ordeal began to cloud my mind. If the boys were ever found out, there'd be hell to pay. Was it worth it? What about Diana? What would she do to me? Would she make my parents forget about me completely? Would she ruin my friends' lives out of spite? In my gut, I felt a stone of confidence try to fight back, but the heaviness of my thoughts began to dissolve that stone little by little. What What was going on with me? I looked up to Diana once again to see her gaze boring into my eyes. She was using her powers on me. This time, I was away from home, so I couldn't escape. Or could I? Did I want to? The way she stared at me made me feel warm and fuzzy in my chest. It felt like melting. Diana lifted a hand under my chin and ran her thumb over my lips, licking her own. I could feel little shots of energy zipping from under my skin into my chin where she held me.
Now, let's have a little taste of that sweet, virginal sexual energy.
I watched as she leaned in, ready to kiss me and take my energy. Half of my body felt the elation at the idea. The other half completely rejected it and didn't want it to even touch me. Sam... Suddenly, Diana stopped in her tracks.
Sam, who is...
It then dawned on her.
Ah, one of the boys. Why don't you tell me which boy is Sam?
I felt myself nod in compliance. The third. Diana giggled in reply before letting go of my face and stepping back.
Really? The brute? With you?
I nodded once again, but this time it was partly my own decision to reply. Diana let out a sound that mimicked a cat's purr before stepping away from me.
Alright then. Well, if it's the brute you're infatuated with, you should really rethink your romantic options.
Diana chuckled before kissing my nose, where I felt a shot of energy zap out of my body, almost making me dizzy in recoil. Diana then turned to the desk and sat on the wood, crossing her legs.
You can go now. Remember, no class for the rest of the week.
And how am I supposed to get home? My two friends left me here thanks to you.
Oh, were they your ride? My apologies. Let me help then.
Diana then lifted her hand and snapped her fingers. I suddenly felt the floor sink from underneath me, forcing me to look down. A purple pentagram surrounded my feet, pulling me into the ground. Whoa! Before I could fight, however, I sank fully into the floor, fading into darkness and shutting my eyes. As I opened them, I felt my silk sheets around me, soothing my anxiety from the darkness that had previously surrounded me. What the... Why did Diana bring me home? Was this an illusion? Was I being tricked? Something was going on. I sat up in bed, looking around me. I was indeed in my room. There was no mistake about that. Why? Diana is too strange. Was this a game? Was this part of her plan to get the boys back? I was lost and confused more than ever, despite my logical thought trying to piece the puzzle that was Diana together. The more I tried to solve it, the less I understood about the situation I was in. I was interrupted, however, by my door suddenly opening, revealing the boys with Damien's hand on the doorknob.
Miss, what are you doing here?
Aren't you supposed to be in school?
I furrowed my eyebrows and stared at Damien, asking him to answer their questions through my thoughts.
Diana sent her back here. She invaded her school and sent all the students back home.
What is that bitch up to? Seriously! Diana's playing around for no reason.
Maybe it's part of her plan.
The boys continued to argue back and forth about Diana, fueling an almost jealous curiosity in me. Damien seemed to be too deep within the talking to notice my thoughts, for he didn't even stop talking alongside his brothers. Why was Diana after them? Why did she want to bring them back? What was so important about the boys that she would travel to the human world to get them? What was going on? I decided enough was enough. I needed answers. Hey! The boys stopped arguing, staring at me in surprise. I held my hands and fists on my lap, mustering the courage to continue to speak despite my abrupt shout. Why is Diana here? Why does she want to bring you all back? What exactly did you all run from? Why did you run from it?
Miss, we...
Don't miss me. Please. I need to know what's going on. I won't be left in the dark about this. I want to know what I'm facing. The boys looked at each other hesitantly, unsure of what to reply. Finally, Sam pushed Damien towards the bed, making him buckle and land on his knees with his torso over the edge of the mattress.
Damien, do the thing.
The thing? What thing?
Sam, you're not suggesting.
Why not? She deserves to know everything, especially if Diana is targeting her.
Sam's right.
I guess we have no choice then.
I was getting confused. What was Damien about to do? Damien stood before climbing onto the bed with me, sitting across from me on his knees.
We're going to show you everything. You have to trust me, okay? The minute you stop trusting me, the vision will stop.
Vision?
You want to know, right? Trust him.
I looked to Sam, unsure of what was going on, but I nodded. If this was the only way to learn, then this was my chance to know. Damien gently placed his hands on each side of my head, gently pressing his thumbs into the skin above my eyebrows. I could only stare at Damien as his eyes began to glow gold and energy began to be both pulled out of me and forced into my head. Within seconds, my vision went black once again. I was unsure of what Damien was doing, but soon shapes and textures slowly began to appear around me. I found myself sitting on a stone floor in the middle of what looked like a fantasy throne room. Where am I? I looked down at myself to stand, only to see my body as translucent as a ghost. Whoa! I jumped up and inspected my hands in a sudden panic. I was see-through! Why? What was going on?
How dare they try to negotiate with me? Do they not know whom they speak to?
I gasped and ran behind a nearby pillar away from the voice. The sound of his anger and his words frightened every bone in my body, turning me into a frightened child.
My lord, please calm yourself.
Calm? They're merely testing my resolve. I have more than half of a mind to send my greatest armies to take what should be mine. They are mere insects in the way of my kingdom's expansion.
They merely asked for a marriage joining.
So I'm to bow to them and share my land that I have so rightfully conquered?
I peeked from behind the pillar to see a large demon, covered in royal clothes, but buff enough to be a military commander. His rage practically emanated from his body as he growled at his servant.
They are willing to give their land to you, sire. All they ask is for one of your sons to marry their daughter, whom I might add is as beautiful as can be.
This is ridiculous! To suggest that I need their approval to take their land is beyond insanity. What makes them think I care about their precious daughter?
Did I mention that she is a prodigy of her kind, sire?
A prodigy?
Yes, my lord. This succubus is a master of her skills in magic and mind manipulation. She is said to sway armies with a snap of her fingers, despite being as young as she is.
Impossible!
If only it were, sire. This succubus is dangerous, but would be a great asset to have should we agree to this arrangement. The only reason she cannot faze you, my lord, is because you are the strongest demon in the plains.
Is this supposed to change my mind?
Yes, my lord.
You are doing a terrible job at convincing me.
My apologies, sire.
I was lost. I could tell that they were talking about Diana, but why?
Father.
I quickly turned my head to see another demon who looked like a mere child, staring at the demon commander on the throne. Father.
Ah, Raystrout. Have you finished your training?
Yes, Father.
Then what do you want?
I want to be with my brothers the best of the day, Father.
The demon commander walked to the young demon and gripped his hair, picking him up off the ground and forcing him to look up at his snarl. The young demon, however, looked unfazed.
Arrogance. Why should I allow you to be with them? I should kill you for your lack of respect to me.
Because I want to be with them, Father.
I could only stare as the young demon faced his father, despite the massive difference between them. This young demon seemed weaker and easy to kill versus the demon commander. Why would this man kill his son, though? Was this commander that ruthless? However, I wasn't expecting him to laugh and release the young demon.
Good! Assertive even in the face of danger. That is why you are my favorite son.
I could only stare wide-eyed as the commander placed his hand on the demon's shoulder.
Very well. Go. Tomorrow, you will show me your training.
The little demon grinned widely before running off.
I have a thought.
Yes, my lord?
How old is this daughter?
As old as your 5th, sire.
Do you believe this proposal is worth it?
Yes, sire.
Tell those insects that they are safe for now. I will consider their offer.
Sire, are you certain?
Did I stutter? Now go!
The demon servant quickly ran off, but as soon as he passed the pillar I was hiding behind, he along with the commander vanished into thin air. What had happened? I didn't get the time to try and figure that out before a demon who looked around my age walked into the room reading a book. Is that...
Raestrow, your nose is stuck in those books. Will you not lift your head up from them once in a while?
Huh? That voice. I circled around the pillar to see a second demon, leaning against another pillar and smirking at Raestrow.
Aren't you supposed to be with your mother practicing the harpsichord?
I am, but I had a feeling that you were in danger.
In danger? What are you...
Attack!
All of a sudden, 3 shadows zipped through the room and slammed into Raestrow, forcing him to fall to the ground and drop his book. As the sight cleared for me, there were 3 other demons in a dog pile with Raestrow at the bottom.
Get
up!
No way! You haven't had a break in months from those stupid books. It's time for punishment!
Death by brotherhood! No more reading!
I told you that you were in danger.
I suddenly knew who these demons were. It's the boys. Even in the demon world, their brotherly connection was astounding. They were merely younger versions of themselves. One of the demons, who I assumed was Matthew, grabbed the book from the floor and opened it, reading it mockingly.
How can you read this, Raestrow? It's all about war strategy. It's boring!
I have to, Zakaru! Get off!
There's only one thing you need to know about strategy. Kill them all! Take no prisoners!
You sound just like Father!
I couldn't help but giggle. It was cute to see them acting childish with each other. Eventually, James managed to push his brothers off him and stand, brushing himself off.
You all are reckless.
At least we have fun.
It's true, you haven't been with us in weeks. Don't you think it's time for a break?
I'm sure Father won't mind.
But I have to...
I know you want to, Raestrow.
Damn it.
What is going on here?
I shot my head to the voice to see the commander, aged a little, staring at the boys with his arms crossed against his chest. Damien quickly dashed and hid behind Sam, peeking over his shoulder to see the large commander.
Nothing is going on. We just passed by each other.
Then why does your brother have your book?
I was showing him what I was learning, Father.
Return to your studies, Raestrow. The rest of you out of my sight. Do not disturb your brother again.
I could only stare as James gently took his book and, without looking at his brothers, returned to reading. The commander walked past the remaining brothers, growling at Sam and Damien before leaving the room. What was up with that?
Don't worry about it. We'll find a way to get him back.
I don't know. He's on a very tight leash.
Ezra, you're quiet. What did you hear?
He's going to a negotiation meeting. He's going to arrange a marriage.
A marriage? For who?
It must be for one of us.
He hasn't decided who will marry her. It's a girl from a kingdom he wants to take over.
But that's uncharacteristic of him. Usually he'd just attack with the army.
Whatever the case is, one of us is getting married.
I hope it isn't me.
What about Ray Strau? He's the eldest.
It would make sense, but having a succubus marrying one of us means that she'll be practically married to all of us.
Well, what should we do?
Before the conversation could continue, the boys vanished into thin air, fading into different coloured mists. They were replaced by an older Damien and Matthew, sitting with each other in the middle of the throne room.
Do you think we should?
I really want to.
I want to as well. Still, it'll be hard to convince Raysturo, since he's the one about to be married, and he's the favorite.
We don't know that, Zakeru. Maybe she's set to marry you.
No way! I don't want to get married.
I don't think you'll have a problem with that baby face of yours.
I looked over to see Sam join the duo, crossing his arms and raising an eyebrow at his brothers.
What are you two talking about?
We got into contact with the human world again.
Come on, Ezreal. You give humans too much attention.
No way, you gotta listen! They apparently have stores and books and schools and stuff!
So what? It's full of humans who piss on each other for no reason. They're no better than the devil spawn.
Nuh-uh! The one we were talking to wasn't like that!
How do you know, Zakeru?
Because I do!
What is going on here?
They want to go to the human world.
The human world?
Raysturo, think about it. You won't have to marry that girl and be the heir anymore. You could be with us, and we can make lives for ourselves in the new world.
Now you're just talking nonsense.
I vote that we do it.
Huh? Oh, not you two.
Think about it. This may be our chance to finally get away from this political nonsense we're stuck in. We may be nobles, but we're still our own beings.
Ristrao is in.
What? Ezreal!
Whoa! So how do we get there?
Are you kidding me? You don't even know how we'd get there.
A simple spell should work, but it would require someone from the human world to help us get there.
We can ask him!
Oh, he'd definitely help us.
I'm not so sure about...
Raystral, aren't you tired of pleasing Father all of the time?
I am, but...
If you stay, you'll be married off and become ruler of Father's kingdom. You'll have no time for yourself or with us, and you'll be constantly at war with the other realms for power. You'll most likely turn into the spitting image of Father.
What he's saying is, get your head out of your ass and let's go. If you don't say yes, I'll drag your princely ass with us. I don't care what that bastard of a father wants.
Come on, Raysturo!
All right, let's do this. What's the plan?
I couldn't believe what was happening. I was seeing the history of their lives before my eyes. They were nobles, and James was the heir to the kingdom the commander ruled. Even more so, he was going to be married to Diana. They sacrificed everything to leave and be together. They'd rather be free than remain in their noble roles. I started to feel a little jealous. They were able to leave while I was still expected to be what my father wanted me to be. How they were able to leave was uncertain still, but I knew I would learn with time. I closed my eyes and mentally asked Damien to end the vision. As soon as I asked, the world around me slowly vanished, and I was brought back to the bedroom where I sat with my head nestled into Damien's hands. My vision began to clear, letting me fully see the boys around me, all with concerned faces.
So, you now know exactly who we are.
Diana is the girl you were arranged to marry?
Not anymore. Once we left, the arrangement was broken. With no sons to marry off, her dad couldn't go through with the marriage deal.
If Diana is here for us, that means she's trying to save her kingdom from being attacked.
That's not true. She wants to rule our kingdom. Having one of us will give her the right to our kingdom, as much as we'd have right over hers.
So she's a gold digger!
Well, with a kingdom like ours, what succubus wouldn't want to marry us for it?
It all made sense. She wanted them so she could finally take over the opposing kingdom. She knew that, despite her powers, she wouldn't be able to fight against their father, so she had to find another way in. That manipulative. Before I could continue, I felt my head suddenly get heavy and dizzy. I gripped my head, mewling under my breath. What the...
I took too much. I'm so sorry.
Rest now. There's no need to do anything more today.
The boys suddenly rushed over and helped me lay back down as my vision was painted in white polka dots. I needed sleep badly. Instantly, I closed my eyes and let darkness consume me. After what seemed like hours, I finally woke up, slightly refreshed. My body knew that if I slept any longer, I'd be up all night, which was not part of the plan for the day. I rubbed my eyes and sat up, letting a soft groan escape my lips. In response, something beside my bed shuffled, causing me to look over. I didn't know what I was expecting. Beside me, sitting in a chair beside the bed, was Sam, rousing himself up to see me awake. I smiled at him, seeing his slightly ruffled hair and tired eyes.
Oh, you're awake. How do you feel?
Better. Sam nodded before he looked down at the bed, leaning over it to stare at the blanket.
I'm such an idiot. If I was stronger, you wouldn't be like this.
Sam, it's not your fault.
No, it's my fault. It's our fault. Look at you. You're in bed again, after us using our powers again, and you're a target again because of us. We never should have come.
I quickly reached over and put my finger on his lips, stopping him from going any further. I didn't want to hear anymore. Sam, it's okay. I wanted to help you out. I offered to let you all stay. Nothing is your fault. I gently moved my hand and cupped Sam's cheek, staring at him with concern. I didn't want him to hold guilt in his mind about this whole ordeal. Diana was desperate and she'd hunt anyone for them. It wasn't his fault she was desperate enough to hunt them down. Sam looked at me, defeated by my hand, before he closed his eyes and let out a sigh. However, I grew curious. So, Sam, you're a noble? Sam opened his eyes to look at me. He didn't seem angry, but he had a coldness in his voice as he spoke.
I was a noble. I'm not a noble anymore.
Not anymore?
I was the third son of the Demon Lord. My brothers and I lived together in the castle as nobility, but since James was the oldest, James became royalty and was heir to the throne. The whole situation became one gigantic, boring mess, so we all grouped together and left to come here. Once that happened, we surely lost the chance to ever get forgiveness.
What was it like while you were there?
Like I said, one gigantic, boring mess. Eric, Matthew, and I were as replacements in case James fucked up. Since Eric was before me and since my dad was a dickbag, I wasn't ever likely to get the throne. So I spent my days lazying about and not giving two shits about anything. Not even my mom could control me.
Your mom?
Yeah, she's not like my asshole of a dad. She was actually caring and kind, but was a pushover.
Sam let out a small laugh. I could tell he was getting nostalgic.
She always thought I could be more than I was, but my dad definitely made sure I knew my place. In response, I became the rebel son, hanging out with the commoner demons and such just to piss my dad off. I swear, I'm surprised he didn't kill me out of shame.
That's horrible! Sam stared at me as if I'd slapped him. He then sighed and ruffled my hair a bit.
Don't even worry about it. You need rest. You don't need to know about the demon world.
But I want to know more about you. Sam stared at me once again as if I'd slapped him. I couldn't tell whether I was pissing him off or intriguing him. He let his hand that was ruffling my hair fall down the strands of my hair, stopping at my cheek to cradle it. For a strong man, Sam knew how to be soft. Sam let out a sigh before unlinking his dog tag from his neck and putting it around mine.
I'm warning you, my past is boring.
Sam wrapped his fingers gingerly around the dog tag, and I watched as green mist began to surround his hand and the dog tag. The green aura wrapped around the necklace until it snaked around my head, and before I knew it, I was surrounded in green light. When the light had subsided, I was back in the main hall of the demon castle. I looked around, feeling unable to move, but I could practically see everything as clear as I had before.
Bring that back!
My head shot towards the sudden exclamation, where I saw Sam rush into the hall with a quite large basket of bread.
No chance in hell, creepo!
Sam then did what I only ever saw in TV shows or movies. He stomped his foot on the ground, causing a large boulder to burst out from it, before he kicked it towards the entrance he'd come from. I could only stare as the boulder didn't demolish the door it was flying towards, but simply skidded to a stop, blocking the entrance.
That was easy.
Sam then turned into the hall, looking around as he walked towards the throne. He took a small roll of bread and stuffed it into his mouth, only able to cover half of it as he stared at the seat. I was surprised. Why did Sam steal bread? Why would he steal bread? He was a rebel, yes, but he was a noble. He wouldn't get in trouble for taking food, but he had a basket of bread. Sam chewed and swallowed the bread he started consuming inside.
Fucking asshole piece of shit parent.
At least you have your folks.
I turned to see another demon step out from behind a pillar towards Sam. Sam smirked at him and tossed in the basket of bread.
Think that's enough for you and your brother?
More than enough. This means a lot, man.
Don't mention it, Gaku.
Gaku smiled and held out a hand to Sam, who took it and shook it.
We owe you for this.
You don't owe me jack shit. Now get going before you get caught.
Gaku nodded. However, Gaku quickly got out a dog tag from his trench coat and held it out to Sam. Sam stayed before reaching out and taking it.
What is this?
A gift. A human world trinket. I know you and your brothers have been interested in it. Maybe this might bring you closer to it.
Sam stared before looking down at the gift. It was glimmering silver, almost entrancing Sam's gaze. As Sam looked back up, Gaku lifted off of the ground and flew out an open window into the almost sickly purple sky.
The human world.
Sam looked back down at the trinket before wrapping it with green magic.
Like I can get any closer.
Sam tossed the trinket into the air, letting it vanish into an unknown oblivion. I smiled a bit at the sight, knowing the future of that point. What surprised me was a green orb slowly floating towards Sam, wrapped in a purple-like aura. Sam didn't even turn around, but spoke as if he knew.
What do you want, Mom?
Mum? How was that orb his mother? The orb simply floated in place as Sam turned to it with an almost angry glare.
Yes, I stole that bread and gave it to the commoner, all right? Don't judge me.
Once again, Sam was not responded to. At least, not from what I heard. Sam clicked his teeth and crossed his arms, peeved.
Yeah, whatever.
The orb then floated over to Sam and lightly brushed his cheek before flying off, disappearing into the air. Sam sighed, rolling his shoulders.
I need to get out of here.
He looked like he had a lot on his mind, but his closed mouth wouldn't let him express it. However, none could question his irritation. Eventually, Sam stopped the magic, taking the dog tag off me and holding it in his hands before looking to me.
What did I tell you? Boring.
You helped that demon get food.
I was a rebel breaking rules. We're not supposed to care for common demons. We're supposed to let them die out if they don't have the ability to take care of themselves.
Sam gritted his teeth and let out an aggravated sigh.
Whatever. I'm not there anymore. I'm here.
Sam.
Look, I'm sorry.
I stared, my mind going blank. What was he apologizing for? Sam stared down at the blankets again.
You've done a lot for me and my brothers. Sheltering us, letting us continue to live here. It may not seem like much, but for us, it means everything. Especially after everything that's happened to you with that hellspawn Malix and Diana being crazy. I don't think we'll ever be able to repay you for what you've done.
I watched in speechless silence as Sam lifted his head, his eyes full of almost hopelessness.
Thank you.
Sam lowered his head and gently, almost as if I was fragile, placed his hand over my hand. I couldn't help but feel my heart squeeze within my chest at the sight. He truly cared. Sam let out a small sigh before looking to me, removing his hand from mine.
Now get some sleep. You still need rest. We'll wake you up when dinner is done.
Sam gently pressed me back down into the bed, resolved in what had happened. I couldn't let him leave without doing something. I quickly pulled Sam down to me, lifted my head and gently kissed him, softly laying a hand on his cheek to keep his face close. Sam stayed in deep surprise before hesitantly kissing me back, caressing my cheek and slightly melting at the touch of our lips. A soft sigh escaped from his lips as he slowly pulled away with a smile. He gently licked his lips, making me go red in the face at the simple gesture. He let out a satisfied sigh before running a hand through my hair.
Sleep, doofus.
And with that, he stood up and left the room, leaving me to rest as per his request. I smiled to myself before relaxing into the mattress. I suddenly tensed up. I felt majorly uneasy. Something wasn't right. I felt it in my core. She must be here. The thought of her in the house infuriated me beyond belief. I had to make sure she was not here. I rolled out of bed and quickly left my room, wandering the halls and listening closely. She was a demon, but I was listening very intently. There was no way she would have been able to sneak up on me. I know you're here. Where are you? I could feel myself growl. It wasn't a matter of fear that she'd take away the boys anymore. Her very existence had lit a fire of rage within my gut, which only grew as each day went by. This feud was getting on my nerves, and I knew it would not end well for one of us. I wasn't gonna lose to that demon bitch.
What the fuck do you want?
My heart stopped. Diana was with Sam. My mind flew into slow motion, playing fake images of Diana trying to seduce Sam in my head, to further fan the angry flame inside of me. I instinctively followed Sam's voice. I was approaching the grand lobby. I hid myself behind the corner of the hall, peeking into the space and down at the scene. I peeked inside to see Sam by the foot of the stairs, with Diana sitting on the railing, looking to him.
My, such a brute. Didn't your mother teach you how to treat a woman?
She isn't here, and frankly, you shouldn't be either.
I'm hurt. Wounded, truly.
Like I care, you crazy bitch.
Pity. And here I thought I was going to offer you the chance to become something better than just a simple incubus.
What was Diana going on about? More than just an incubus? She was insane.
Like you got anything I care about.
How about becoming the next demon lord?
I froze. What did she mean? Becoming the next demon lord? The boys weren't in the demon world anymore. They had no claim to the throne anymore. Sam stared at Diana, which made me worried.
You're bluffing.
Well, currently, I'm the contracted bride to the heir to the throne. Since the throne is open, it's available to any son of the Demon Lord's line. Think about it. You'll gain the throne, the land, and a bride to continue your lineage with. Doesn't that sound like a perfect life for an incubus like you?
I could feel myself gripping my fists tightly in anger. How dare this girl try to convince Sam to return to the demon world? He ran away from it. He didn't have to go back. He shouldn't go back. My mind began to wander, imagining him saying yes. He would leave and the brothers would follow to bring him back. They'd be trapped because Diana would make sure they could never leave. Sam would be the new Demon Lord with Diana as his queen, and I'd lose him.
You must be crazier than I thought.
What?
I felt surprise run down my body again. Did I hear Sam correctly? He denied her?
You dare deny!
All of a sudden, Sam's body disappeared, as well as Diana's. I blinked and saw Sam grip Diana by the neck, pinning her body to the wall near the dining room archway. Her feet couldn't even touch the floor, and I felt myself unconsciously rub my neck at the sight.
For once in your life, shut your fucking mouth!
I could see Sam's muscles tense and flex at holding Diana, wanting to tense even harder to snap her neck.
You do not scare me. I could bring you to your knees and make you beg to return with me on a chain leash.
Then do it! I want to see you try to chain me!
Sam glared as Diana stayed, almost in fear of him. I expected her to actually do it. However, after a small breath of a moment, Sam smirked.
Called it.
Sam then released Diana, letting her body fall to the floor. Diana gripped her neck, coughing for air as Sam stepped back, glaring at her.
You're out of power. You've been running without recharging and now you're on your last life.
Shut up!
Diana glared and stood up, flipping her hair back to its almost unnaturally sexy style.
What's stopping me from taking your little human's energy?
You go anywhere near her again and I will rip you apart.
The human girl? You must be joking. A human like her can't possibly provide you what you need. She's a human. You're a demon.
I felt the urge to storm in and shut her mouth. It would give away my position, but I was growing extremely tired of Diana. I'm gonna pause it and set it straight, because that's what I do. I decided to be assertive and quickly stepped into the room, rushing down the steps to be in front of Sam. Diana and Sam looked at me in surprise as I glared daggers at Diana. Get out.
Well, well, little human. You're awfully nosy in business that doesn't concern you.
It does concern me.
Does it? I don't think a human would understand the importance of this affair.
You're asking him to leave to be someone he doesn't want to be. That's not gonna happen.
Oh? And what makes you so sure about that?
I love him, that's why. Diana stayed in shock at my exclamation. Was it not what she expected? I didn't care what she expected. I wasn't gonna lose the man I'd grown to love.
You love him?
Yes, I love him. Diana's lips twitched, the edges curling into an amused smirk as she stared at me.
So what? A human's love isn't enough to understand the situation. A demon can never reciprocate human feeling.
To both of our surprise, however, Sam stepped forward and put an arm around me, pulling me close to his body.
I love her.
I saw the confidence Diana had shatter in her eyes as she stared at Sam at his words. I could see the struggle in her face to try and find some weakness in Sam. In me. Anything.
A demon love a human? Impossible.
Are you deaf? I said I love her. You don't have the brains to understand what love is. It's not just a human emotion. Demons like us can feel it too. You just have your head so far up your ass that you refuse to see it. Just like how you refuse to see that you've lost.
Diana took a step back, physically feeling the sting of Sam's words in her chest. She'd lost. I could see it in her eyes. Diana's eyes grew dull as she glared at me and Sam. It seemed almost uncharacteristic of her. Yet it was something I wasn't surprised to see come from her face.
Very well. Fine. Valet.
And with that, Diana faded into the ground into a purple pentagram, crossing her arms and almost looking upset. Sam and I were then left alone, left with the silence of the room. I finally let out the air I was unconsciously holding in my chest, relaxing from the ordeal. Sam stepped to me and held me gently, surprising me.
You alright?
I nodded in response, unable to speak so immediately after being surprised. Sam let out a sigh, relaxing in the embrace. I gently placed my hands around him, returning the embrace slightly. I could hear Sam's heartbeat. He held me close in his arms and I felt safe beyond words. Thank you for defending me.
There's no way I'd let her hurt the one I love.
I looked up at Sam, surprised at what he said. Sam blushed, moving a strand of my hair from my face to look down at me.
I'm an asshole, yeah. Do I deserve to like you? No. I don't deserve to be holding you now, but I love you, okay? I love you.
I stared wide-eyed, blushing like a maniac. Was this real? No way. This couldn't be real. Was Sam confessing to me? Confessing his love for me? Sam caressed my cheek gently, staring into my eyes with a loving, almost hopeful expression. The warmth of his hand invited me to nuzzle into it, and I closed my eyes. This wasn't a dream. My heart was pounding to the point where I was so sure Sam could hear it. Sam gently leaned in, closed his eyes. He stopped, however, remaining just a mere torturous inch away from my lips. He wanted me to show my feelings for him. He'd left himself open for me to kiss him or leave him empty. The power I had was unbelievable. Of course I'm gonna kiss him. I loved him, and I wanted to give him exactly what he wanted. I gently leaned in, letting my lips finally touch his gingerly. Sam let out almost a surprised gasp against my lips before wrapping both of his arms around my waist, pulling me close to him. I moved my arms up and around his neck, feeling the kiss between us deepen to a heated height. My chest was pounding, making me feel and see fireworks in my mind. Sam was everything I desired. He was the man I wanted, demon or not. It was also supernatural to fall in love with someone so quickly. Maybe it was the sense of magic I was thrown into. Maybe it was Cupid playing with my heart. Either way, I found myself melting at the thought of him being with me. I found myself combing my fingers through Sam's hair, making the man holding me softly tremble at my touch. He gently nibbled on my lower lip, asking me to deepen the kiss between us even further. I easily teased him before finally opening my mouth slightly for him. His tongue gently danced with mine as one of his hands slid up my back and cradled my head. He gently leaned my body back, making me cling to him as the heat of our kiss rose higher and higher. Gently though, Sam slowed the kiss down and pulled away, staring down at me. His eyes burned for me, wanting me to melt and buckle in his arms. I could feel myself melt already. Sam opened his mouth to speak, but as a very small blush ran along his cheeks, he was reduced to shy silence. I stared as he tried to find the words to say in my eyes. I knew exactly what he wanted. He didn't need energy though, right? Are you...
No,
I stayed wide-eyed, feeling a blush on my cheeks grow. He didn't say anything more, but I knew what words would have followed if he continued. He wanted me. I was stunned. Was I that appealing to him? Was his passion really that deep for me? Sam gently nuzzled my forehead, losing the blush and finally being able to speak.
If you don't want to, we don't have to. I mean, it's up to you.
I could feel my mind go numb and purr at the idea. A moment with an incubus. He was a demon of sex, the purest form of lust and desire. My world would rock and I would enjoy every second of it. At the same time, I was indeed inexperienced. Diana wasn't wrong when she claimed me to be innocent. Did I want to give that innocence to him, especially this early? I found myself forgetting the words yes and no. What could I say to him? I knew then what I wanted, but how to say it without breaking the moment. Seduce me. I couldn't believe the two words that came out of my mouth. It made the most sense to tell him yes. I needed him. I wanted him. Those two words must have made something in him finally break. Sam quickly wrapped his arms around me, and all of a sudden I felt a wind breeze past me as the world zipped by. I gripped Sam despite it only lasting a mere second. When the world relaxed, I was in my bedroom on my bed with Sam above me. He was red in the face, but he had a look of determination that was quickly fading. I stayed as Sam quickly realized what he was doing. He sat up, growing even more red in the face. I giggled before sitting up and caressing his cheek with a knowing smile. He must have been nervous. I was too, but I wanted this to happen. I wanted to see him and give myself to him. I gently guided his head to me, kissing him slowly and bringing him back into the mood. It was okay to be nervous. We'd work through this together. Sam let his vest slide down his arms and tossed it to the side before cradling my head in his hands and kissing me deeply. I felt heat rise in my body, making me undo the tie underneath my collar and release the buttons on my own shirt. Quickly I removed my shirt and vest, making Sam stop kissing me and stare in slight surprise. I was simply in a bra, but I could feel a blush invade my cheeks. My shy side began to fester in my mind. Did I really want this? To undress before a demon? No, this was the man I loved, and yet I felt my innocence drape over me in almost shame. As if he knew, Sam gently caressed my cheek, smiling before removing his own shirt and revealing his chest. Sam gently held me in his arms, constantly looking to make sure I was okay. It warmed my heart to see him being concerned, but I knew that our heat needed to be fulfilled. Sam pulled me close, knowing I was still shy, and began to kiss my lips over and over. Each kiss was his promise to keep me safe, keep me comfortable, love me. I kept my arms wrapped around Sam, taking each kiss he gave and giving him my own kisses in return. I didn't know if it was the fact that we were both top nude or maybe I just craved his touch, but I didn't want to let him go. However, as he held me, I could slightly feel the shiver of his hands. Was I his first? He wasn't going to tell me. He wanted me to enjoy this moment, but was afraid of screwing up. His shivering hands showed me his emotions perfectly. As he laid me down and knelt over me, Sam smiled and finally embraced me as we both desired. The pleasure between us would be heavenly, and we'd go through it together. I closed my eyes and gave myself to Sam. My body, my mind, my soul, it all belonged to him as he held me. His body, his mind, his soul, it all belonged to me as I gave into his embrace. His kisses and fingers over my skin would forever engrave themselves into my memory as our passion rose through incredible heights. Our breaths and moans to each other equally sounded and echoed like a blissful chant we never wished to end. We kept moving, loving, feeling every inch of our bodies until we had had enough, and I was enveloped in his embrace. Skin to skin, heartbeats matching, we held each other in the glow of the aftermath. I nuzzled my head under Sam's chin as he held me close.
I love you.
I love you too. Just to hear those words come from Sam's mouth made my heart flutter. To hear me answer made my soul warm in glee. I could feel both of us sink into a peaceful sleep together. It was the best sleep I had in days, and I was happy. I had love, and I had happiness. My life was simply perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it here. I'm going to consider what we just did as chapter 2, and we will be further on exploring the game after this point. So, I know that there was a bit of an issue with the chat being up. I'm really sorry about that. I didn't actually realize it had happened until after I finished streaming. Obviously I've fixed the problem now, but that's because I actually am recording this outro after I've already finished streaming. This is not live. I'm not doing this live. I am doing this in one take though. Anyway, I really appreciate you guys watching this video and supporting the series. Please go out and check the game for yourself. It's free on Steam. You can also find it on itch.io, I think. I think you can find it on itch.io. It's pretty much on every system now. Like, I know it's on iOS, so you can get it on your phone. They have the complete story up now, actually. So you can get pretty much all of the games in one bundle. Obviously, I got the games as they came out. Besides Seduce Me, the Otome, the original one, the one that we're playing now. I came to this one a bit late. But the other ones I got as I found them, as they came out. So, you know. Anywho, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, thank you for watching the video. I hope you stick around for the next one. The next one is technically already recorded. It's just probably going to take a bit because I have to go and edit it all, because there's a lot of stuff I have to edit out which happened on the stream. A lot of technical difficulties that I had in this stream, a lot more than the previous two. So there's a lot that I have to edit out and sort out to make sure that it doesn't interfere with the quality of the video. Stay sharp, cite your problems, and I will see you in the next video, unless you decide to head over to my Twitch, which I highly suggest, because you'll get this content completely raw, completely unedited, and you'll get to see those funny little issues that I have. And also my funny little fangirl reactions. I have a lot of those. From the Silent Swordswoman. Goodbye!